You know, I've been paying attention to what's happening in the news, and I see these headlines about Starbucks, and I'm in conversations with my friends. I'm in conversations with people at churches and stuff like that. I see pictures and images that are used as like thumbnails for some of the headlines having to do with talks about race. And usually, when there's an image used or something like that for the talks about race, they usually have a young black man or a young black woman. And I think that shows that that people recognize that there's a problem specifically with minority youth. Okay? And when I say youth, I mean like even up to the millennials, uh, which I am one of those. Uh, and I think there's an untold story not being represented. The truth of the matter is that many of the issues that we're seeing in the news have to do with class and young black men. So many of the issues we're seeing has to do with what a white person feels or what somebody feels when they see a young black man being themselves, or when they see a young black woman being themselves. Like a few years ago, at a party, you see a young black woman being herself and she gets pinned down. And all throughout the news, and even in our everyday encounters, you'll see people looking at young black men a certain way when they are themselves. What do I mean when I say when young black men are themselves? I mean when they dress in ways that mean something to them, when they act according to their values, when they speak according to their values, and their intention is not to measure up to any standard. So, how do young black men dress, talk, act when they're not trying to get a job or jump through some hoops to impress older black people or white people around them? Listen, I really do think that young black men who are, if not from the hood, are affiliated with the hood, are the most hated group of people in the world. Now, quick message to my black sisters, women. I want to give an apology on behalf of all young black men. I think that in many cases, young black women, they deserve an apology. And in many cases, I do believe that we need to make it right with young black women. I feel like there's so much misogyny in the black male culture that we're communicating that we don't love and that we don't value black women. I do think that it's important to know that we've followed the example of racists in the past who have said you should devalue yourself, your culture, everything that you touch. And it caused young black men in the past, throughout the slavery history and throughout the civil rights history, all the way up to now, I think it's caused the young black male to become depressed and to become hopeless and to not know how to deal with our emotions. So what ends up happening is we start taking it out on our sisters, our families, and even ourselves, okay? So we see last year that an ad came out, right? It was I think it was in an ad in one of the Asian countries. That had an Asian woman. She threw a black man in the washer. This was part of the commercial in the advert. She threw a black man into the washer. He comes out a different color. Okay, so this shows that this is not only an American thing, that there are other countries who also look at young black men this way. Also, recently I was watching, I don't know if it was on BuzzFeed, I don't know if it was on Vice, but they were interviewing different people in another country, asking them what they thought about Black Panther, and they had some interesting comments to say about black men, saying that they perceive them to be a certain way. So all I'm trying to say is I think young black men around the world are one of the most disliked groups that exists wherever you go. Even here in America, I sincerely believe this, that even older black men don't like young black men. I don't think that's just a coincidence. I do think it's been modeled throughout history. But I do think that even older black men don't like young black men. So what's this cause to happen? This causes the young black man to be in the most desperate place in our world. You have to understand. I think it was Malcolm X that said that young black women were the most disrespected people in the world. I agree that they are the most disrespected people in the world. However, I don't believe that young black women are the weakest link in the black community. Unfortunately, I think that young black men are in a very scary place. I think that young black women have been given the grace and the strength of God to do things that we just never dreamed of them doing. When they've been abandoned, when they've had husbands and fathers stripped from them, they maintained and they raised their families, and they held the family on their backs. And God is just, and their suffering is not in vain. And even now, people need to understand that young black women are farther ahead than young black men, okay? So when you look at the black community and you say young black women are the minority in the black community, that's not true. I do believe that they are the most disrespected in the world. I think we need to change that, and we need to fight against that. And as a young black male, I feel like we're responsible to make that right and to apologize, man, and to remedy the situation. I have a daughter, I have a wife, and I fight against that every day to make sure that I'm not being condescending, and to make sure that I'm being empowering, to make sure I'm submitting to them, that I'm learning from them, and that I'm loving them as they truly are, and not being misogynistic, because I have a past of that. I do think it's important to understand, though, that young black men are fighting for their lives in the black community and in the world. And unless we understand that, I think this conversation about race is going to be missing some pieces. Things are not going to be making sense. People are going to be wondering, why is it that when we talk about race and when we talk about ethnicity or when we talk about the nations and different things like that, what's missing? Well, the thing is, a lot of white people sense there's a problem in this conversation, and they're running into ceilings because many of them probably don't have a problem with the person beside them being black. Okay? So if I walk into an establishment like Starbucks or something like that, or if I walk into a church, or if I walk into a school, or if I walk up in the, in the presence of an officer, they don't have a problem with me being black. They have a problem with me having a nose ring. They have a problem if I get a tattoo on my neck. They have a problem if my locks get longer. You know what I'm saying? So they might not necessarily have a problem with me being black, but they have a problem with me being a young black male. And that's key. They have a problem with me coming from the background that I come from and having the values that I come from and talking the way that I talk. That's a difference. That's a different thing from just being black. So when we have these conversations about just being black or just being white or just having privilege, you got to understand it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. People do not understand the young black male. They do not understand young black culture. They just think we're a bunch of wild people who have no rules, who don't know what they're doing. They don't understand hip-hop culture. They don't understand that we have ethics. They don't understand that we have language, that we have style, that we have beliefs, and that we have